Elaine's got to
I'm
talk.
going live stream now, people.
Oh,
So
boy.
good morning.
2 minutes early.
Well, I just want to, I keep forgetting it and sometimes I get criticized, but we'll work it through.
Elaine's got to
I'm
talk.
going live stream now, people.
Oh, boy.
See, I do that because then you know what I did? I forgot to take it off the live stream, so I get double feedback. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
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 Top of the day.
Was that Senator Eckhart I heard?
I think that was Karen Couch.
Oh, good morning. You know, does anybody want to do the prayer today? Let's not all speak at once. Johnny Mouch, would you like to do the prayer?
Senator Carosa is coming on now.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Looks like we're at that 9 o'clock hour. Good morning, everyone. I guess first off, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Senator Carosa, are you available to possibly do the prayer for us today? That being said, I guess those honors will go to me today. If we all bow our heads in prayer, please. Heavenly Father, please take care of this delegation. Please take care of the state and help us to ease through some of the problems we're currently having. And we pray for our friends in Europe and that everyone over there could be safe and that your guidance will lead the way for what's happening in that area. We also look to the bills and the legislation we're looking at in Annapolis, and we ask for your help on that too, and to bring the sides all to a mutual good end. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Welcome. Welcome all. If I could ask everybody as a little bit of a reminder, please mute yourself. I do have that all encompassing power to mute everybody, but that mutes me too, I think. I would also like if I could get a motion from the members on the minutes, if we could approve of the minutes.
Move favorable on the minutes.
Second? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Okay, so moved. All right, well, good morning, everybody. We're going to start off.
Well, I'm still going to be in the meeting till 10.
We're going to,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's going to be.
And I'll take a
somebody
picture.
is not muted there. Hold on. Okay. There we go. We got a busy schedule. We got some important things happening here. And I think first off, we're going to start off with Mako. Is Michael Sanderson in? Michael? Good
Here,
morning.
Mr. Chair. Thanks very much, everyone, for your time this morning. I know you do have a busy agenda. My colleague, Dominic Butchko, and I are going to spend a few minutes on some issues that affect county governments. And if that turns into some Q&A, that would be great. But hopefully we won't need the handsome sliver of time that you've saved for us. And you can spend more time talking with your superintendents who are going to be our partners in policy for the next decade for sure. And I know you've got some other things on the agenda as well. So good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Sanderson. I'm the director of the Maryland Association of Counties. We welcome having some time with you this morning. I want to run through just a handful of things really quickly from the county government perspective. I don't think anything we plan to raise this morning will be brand new to you, but as we sift through dozens and dozens of bills and issues that sit before the legislature, there's a few things that are affecting all the counties or potentially rural counties even more so that I think are worth flagging for you all. I say this semi-jokingly, but I think it does set the context for county governments being before the General Assembly. I think for the most part, the county governments are we're in the Kerwin business for the next decade. That this is more or less the lay of the land for county governments and for county budgets. It's going to affect individual jurisdictions on a different timetable, whether it's this year right away or a couple years or so down the road, but over the course of this phase-in of the Kerwin plan, the state's obligation for school funding is just going to draw most every new dollar in the county budget. And that's a policy decision by the state, and the state is going to face largely the same sort of thing. We're in a momentary surplus, and that feels weird, but once the momentary stuff abates, that's going to be the circumstance for the state budget as well. I think that has a lot of different consequences. You know, there's a bill out there to change the membership of the Accountability and Implementation Board. I think local governments will be at the table for there. I think the Eastern Shore region is among the places that right now is not represented on that oversight board. They're not the ones writing the formulas, but as far as implementation, having everybody at the table makes sense, and we'll be there to support that bill. I think the draw on county budgets, even though we're in a momentary surplus, still is a real issue. And the legislature has a few things on the table that are serious, that are even sharper concerns for us as usual. When we face unfunded mandates and state mandated tax cuts and so forth, that translates to the resources we would need to deliver back home, not just for basic public services that are supposed to be county government's job, but also to deliver on our share of the Kerwin promise. A couple of things that have a particularly rural flavor that I'll mention that are very much in play this session. One is, how do we assess and tax businesses that are basically on a farm? Just about every county has been looking for ways to do things like agritourism in your areas that are zoned and set aside for agriculture. Having farm stands and having corn mazes, but then on the way up to having a wedding venue or businesses that are basically on a farm, but an ancillary part of that. That's been a big success to make more farms viable and so forth. How do you tax that commercial activity is getting tricky, because we are teetering against the tail wagging the dog. The idea of someone coming in and buying a farm just so they can put up the big restaurant or the big commercial venue. And well, we still have a row of tomato plants, so we'll call it a farm. There's a tax issue there that's not exciting, but the idea of giving everybody a green light for super low farm level taxation has an 80-some million dollar local fiscal note and not a nickel to the state. So it's one of those bills that can easily pass muster without having to go before the appropriations and the Budget and Tax Committee necessarily, but that's real policy for local governments. I think we'll be able to thread that needle and keep the dog wagging the tail, but that's one of those issues that has a rural flair that is a meaningful one. We want to continue incentives for good agritourism, but if you've become a genuine money-making property, that ought to become a taxable property in that regard. Just the building, just the barn, not the farm. On top of that, I will say tax policy for solar. We've been dealing with this for years, and the Eastern Shore has felt it more than any other part of the state. I guess maybe the Piedmont is close, but where are we going to put big solar, community solar, and everything in between? And to what degree should they get preferential treatment under state and local tax policy is very much in play. This is a rider on the big debate over climate legislation that the environmental committees are dealing with. Tax committees have multiple bills on their own. This is a big unanswered question. And as a matter of policy, it's tricky to know, have we already done enough to ensure that solar is going to get there over the next 10 to 15 years, as our renewable portfolio standard says? If you want to sell electricity in Maryland, you got to have clean sources. At what point do you no longer need incentives and, hold the fish out for the dolphin kind of stuff? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure that the environmental nor the tax leaders know the answer to that, but we've got bills in that are really close to just all hands off everything in the solar field. If it's silicon, let's just make it tax-free because it's the best thing ever. Once again, those are the same resources that the counties and municipal governments need to deliver on our own promise and our own charge. So that stuff is important to local governments, and the tax committees and the environmental committees are both dealing with that kind of stuff. I'll mention one other environmental issue, and then I'll turn things over to my colleague, Dominic Butchko, who has most of our environmental portfolio, to talk about one particular issue. I will say, as I mentioned, as I'm sure you all know, there's still a big unsettled debate over broad climate legislation. And both chambers have variations of bills dealing with climate and so forth. One element that is still in active negotiations in there is how are these new rules going to affect the methane that comes out of landfills? And you put stuff in the ground because we can't recycle it, because we have no other place to put it. And there are methane emissions from landfills. Some studies over the last year or two that suggest that's a bigger deal than we had previously thought. And so it's kind of risen up the priority queue. But how do you deal with that is tricky. And if Maryland says we want to pin ourselves to the really aggressive standards from California or maybe Oregon or other specific states, we could end up with a spot where we're increasing the costs of running an operating landfill by 20, 40, 60%. Like the methane reduction will be the main business and the most expensive thing on a landfill site. It's tough enough running solid waste. And we want to do so responsibly. We want to be part of the problem. If we end up with a really rigid control on managing methane out of local landfills, it could make them overwhelmingly cost prohibitive. Some folks might be happy with that, but we don't really have another choice. There's only so much you can do to ship stuff out of state or put it on a barge. The same people who don't like the methane also don't like incinerators. So there are not good options for what to do with municipal solid waste. And there's only so much you can control that stream. So put a pin in that as you hear that debate. It will probably be to the floor of the Senate next week. It will probably be in the Environmental Committee, in the E&T Committee in the House in the next couple of weeks. But that's a meaningful part of that debate that affects down to your community level. So that's a quick scattershot of a handful of issues that county governments are focused on. My colleague Dominic is in the room and he wants to talk for a minute. We've been working with Delegate Hornberger on a bill that's really important to us and our emergency services. We've got a chance to get something done on EMS billing, which is a long time coming. So Dom, I teed that up for you. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Dom. I work at MACO. I also liaison with the rural counties, so a lot of your counterparts at the county level. So really quick on this EMS bill, it does a couple of awesome things, and we've had two really good initial hearings so far. So this bill first allows for EMS companies to bill for care that they deliver in the field, as well as for transport. We are trying to also raise the fee for which you can bill for that transport itself. Right now it's set at about $100 or $150, which just isn't enough to cover the services that go on. So we also want to authorize mobile integrated health. Sometimes you call 911 and you don't need to go to a hospital. You can be treated in the field. So we're trying to get that authorized and relieve some pressure on our emergency rooms. This bill will also allow for transport to other facilities when appropriate. So an ER in every emergency is not always the best place to go. Sometimes in urgent care, drug rehab, etc. So this surprisingly had a smaller fiscal note than we anticipated, about $3.8 million. And so far, this has been positive. This will be huge for a lot of the local run EMS and the volunteer EMS. So any help or we can get from you guys would be amazing. And I'm here to answer any questions on it.
So Mr. Chair, a number of things MACO is working on. We're happy to serve as a resource for you all. And if you have questions back for your counties and so forth, I want to take one last thing, if I may, while I've got the little conch shell, and just say, I know a number of the Eastern Shore superintendents are on the line, and Dr. Simmons is here. I'll just say, I've heard within the last day that we may not have had all of the shoes fall on education funding in this year's budget. I thought this issue was resolved. There was this dust up over the governor didn't fund everything that we were expecting in the Kerwin formulas and so forth. And literally just last night, I heard for the first time that there may be smaller counties that are still feeling left behind. I'm going to stick around on the balance of the call. And if that's one of the topics you all raise, I want to hear about that. we feel very directly that state
Oh,
mandated
oh yeah,
funding.
this is the county people. This guy runs the Maryland Association.
He sure does. Anyway, so I want to stick around and listen to the superintendents. If you've got a concern on that front, please consider us your brothers in arms in trying to help get that resolved. So with that, thanks very much for your time this morning, and happy to chat about anything else that's on your mind.
Perfect. I do have a couple questions. I think first up is Senator Hershey.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mike, you I guess we're reading my notes here because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about is, the supplemental budget that just came out, the funding that was there in some places, but certainly was not there for some of the smaller counties. I know specifically Caroline County did not get the disparity grant that they were looking for. And, with a number of the other items that you've talked about, I mean, the General Assembly keeps passing mandated bills that increase local government spending, and whether it's in methane capture, last year it was police reform. We have a number of additional costs related to that. But going back to the biggest one is obviously Kerwin. And Mike, and you do represent all of the counties, but at some point in time, this is going to come to a standoff. A county is simply just going to say, we are not going to raise our taxes any higher to pay for policies that they may or may not agree with, or let's say that they don't agree with. Mike, what's going to happen? I mean, how does this play out when a county just says, you know what, we ain't going to do it. We're not going to fund Kerwin. Let's see how this plays out. What do you think happens there?
I don't want to be too bleak about the conversation. The Kerwin bill and the way the state requirement for counties to fund education works is there's a backstop, and funding that comes through the state can end up being basically redirected directly to the school system. So the way the system works is close to foolproof. That this is no longer like years ago. I remember when maintenance of effort was basically, this is the condition for the state to send the extra money to your school system is that the county keep up with their level. That got changed about a decade ago, and now the funding level is an absolute mandate. The county must do so unless the state provides a waiver. If you don't, that means the comptroller will be directed not to send you your income tax. They'll send it to your schools instead, and so forth. There's probably some bottom to that arithmetic where there's only so much money that runs through the state to satisfy the needs of the schools. But I mean, is it possible it ends up in a lawsuit that the state has exceeded its bounds? I don't know. Education is in the state constitution as a mandate. I think the counties are pretty much just along for the ride here. And what we need to do is come to the General Assembly and say, that's the reason we need the flexibility to manage things appropriately back home. And when it comes to tax cuts or new unfunded mandates, don't load new things on top. So it may not be the most satisfying answer, but I think that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, no, I know. And it wasn't an easy question. But, again, I kind of see a little bit what you're talking about. If you do play this out, sure, the comptroller can say, hey, I'm going to send money directly there, and then shut off all of these other aspects of government if again, a county commission or board decides not to raise taxes. But I think we need to take a look at what this is really going to look like, because certainly some counties that I represent are extremely angry over the mandates from Kerwin, and don't have the capabilities of being able to fund it, have not been treated right when we talk about wealth factors and things of that nature. Everything kind of plays into this. And again, I just see that there's going to be a standoff, and at some point in time, somebody at the state government is going to make a decision not to fund a county. And unless we have a real solution, it's going to be bad on a number of levels. So,
well, thank you. And back to the first part of your question, I didn't get to, and let me just say, as far as county governments are concerned, if there's a gap in the budget that the governor has brought forth and he hasn't met what the General Assembly put forth for him, we see that as a structure of government issue, not a partisan issue, not a red and blue, not big and small. if this was going to be a fight about Baltimore City and Prince George's County and their funding under one specific program, and we had to go to the mat on that, counties were ready to do that. And if this is now an issue of some smaller jurisdictions being left behind on something that's in the law and not in the budget, we are every bit ready to go to the mat on the same issue. If in the law, it needs to show up in the budget. You can't leave this session with a hole in the boat like that. That's the General Assembly has to have a role in fiscal policy. So I'll listen for the details on that, but we are with you.
Well, we certainly appreciate your help. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. You know what? We are running close on time. We do have other questions. Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'm the House file on this agro, income bill and the taxation. The issue, the comptroller has decided recently that they're going to start taxing these entities. They haven't done so in the past. The problem is they're casting an extremely wide net, and they're saying if you're raising horses, if you're doing a bridal shop, sorry, that's my clock, or if you're doing the winery, the brewery, you're having to pay these additional taxes. And I mean, as a farmer, the decision that I make to go soybean or corn, I do that because it's more lucrative than the other. Raising horses, selling horses, or putting grapes in wine. Where does it stop?
So I think Delegate, I think you'll be pleased with the direction this is heading in the Senate. As of literally just yesterday, we had a really productive face-to-face with some of the leaders who I know you've been talking to, who have talked about the horse barns and so forth. I think we're going to be able to get a bill drafted to do what you're talking about, but not get into the territory that we're afraid of. We're afraid of the sort of vulture farmer who swoops in, buys a farm, and uses it to try and put somebody else out of business by getting a big tax break. I don't think anyone really wants that either. So if it's an accessory use of an active farm, treat it like a farm. And if it's a genuine business, then we treat it like a business. I think we can draw a line there that is reasonable for everybody. So I'm optimistic this is going to turn into a deal.
Yeah, I'm anxious, but I appreciate your efforts.
Fair enough.
Bye.
Next up, we have Senator Carrozza.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and everyone. Very briefly, want to align my comments with Senator Hershey as well, as far as the impact of Kerwin and on some of our counties and some of the disparities with the wealth formula. Also, because it's more urgent, and Michael touched briefly on this, we are beginning to go through the climate change amendments today after our floor session in the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. And I thank Dominic and Kevin for, I know that you raised some specific issues regarding the methane regs in landfills and have some amendments on that. So we will be, I think strategically, I think we want to figure out the best place to work those. So I wanted to let you know and thank you for working with us, and just to kind of flag that today we're at least supposed to begin climate change. We've been told by our chair that we're not getting into the electrification issues, that we're focused on other amendments today. We will not finish today, and we'll go into next week. So it gives us some time to work your issues. And then I would ask you just to stay to at a leadership level, to work closely with us, because this is moving, starting today. And then I just also want to thank Kevin for his support, working on trying to see if we can find some, retirement incentives for our 911 specialists. If it's not LEOPS, there might be some other ways to work it. So we appreciate your making that a priority as well.
Well, we appreciate working with you, Senator, as always.
Yeah, thank you, Senator.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Delegate Sample Use.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. Michael, thanks for your report. And as always, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I do just want to continue the conversation where Senator Carrozza left with regards to the climate change. When I was watching the hearing in the Senate, I was a little bit taken back and a little concerned of the fact that the Eastern Shore has concerns about the, the gas line, the electrification, all of those things. But I felt like that the due diligence wasn't done to understand the plight of Somerset County and Wycomico County. But it kind of appeared like every county in Mako was on board with this issue. So I don't know how that can be a little bit more streamlined or clarified in these hearings, because I don't want it to be a message in like today's bill hearing in the House, but a message of saying that, all counties are on board, when I know clearly my Eastern Shore counties are not totally on board with all of these things. Case in point, and I'm going to close at this, is, even our oil industries, the proximity that we are to Delaware, and them interested in possibly going across the line. So I'm very supportive of Mako, but I just wanted to also be known that we have to be mindful of our concerns as well, coming out of Mako as a membership. So hopefully I've articulated that right, well, that you understand that, but I was concerned, and I don't like that, that feeling of feeling like that, hey, we just said everything was okay, but it's not okay.
Message received. We raised a number of issues with the bill, but we have been in close contact with Somerset County in particular on this issue. Completely understand where they and the Eastern Shore are coming from on this. It's on our radar as well. So message received. Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you. And can you share with me offline, of course, and just email me whatever amendments that you have proposed in the House, because I'm not on that committee, but I just try to stay up with that issue as well. Thank you.
We will work with you. Thank you.
All right, Michael and Dom, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in here. Always a wealth of information. Any other comments? We'll just catch up with you next year, I guess, on this. And good luck over there. Next up, we have our Eastern Shore Educational Consortium. Mr. Taylor, are you there with us? Would you like to start us off?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning to you, Chairman Arntz, and members of the delegation. A special good morning to my delegation, Senator Carrozza, Delegate Hartman, and Delegate Otto. Thank you all for being here with us this morning as a group of Eastern Shore superintendents. We thank you for this opportunity this morning to share our 2022 legislative initiatives and have a conversation about public education on the Eastern Shore. As Chairman Arntz said, I am Lou Taylor, Superintendent of Schools for Worcester County and this year's president of ESMEC. For public school systems, this has been a very, very difficult time, to say the least, and we are still in those difficult times. COVID, as you all know, has created significant challenges for all our schools and our school systems. On the shore, we are fortunate to have a group of outstanding system leaders who effectively lead our school systems through this extremely difficult time period. At this time, I'd like to pause for a moment and invite the superintendents of schools on the shore to introduce themselves by alphabetical order, if we will, by school system, and we'll start with Caroline County.
Hi, good morning. Derek Simmons, Interim Superintendent, Caroline County Public Schools.
Cecil.
Good morning, everyone. Jeff Lawson, Superintendent of Cecil County Public Schools.
Dorchester.
Good morning, everyone. Dave Bromwell, Superintendent, Dorchester County Public Schools.
Kent. I see you, Karen. Kent.
I'm sorry. I'm Karen Couch, Superintendent of Kent County.
County. Queen Anne's County.
Good morning, Patty Salins, Superintendent for Queen Anne's County Public Schools.
Somerset County.
Good morning, everyone. John Gaddis, Superintendent, Somerset.
Talbot.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Kelly Griffith from Talbot County.
And last but not least, Wycomico.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Donna Hanlon, Superintendent, Wycomico.
And I want to the delegation. It's really an honor to work with these professionals day in and day out, and the commodity that has been built during these difficult times is second to none, and they are outstanding leaders in their own rights, leading their school systems. Members of the delegation, you previously received from Delegate Arntz's office 2 exhibits, which at this time, I'm going to take a few minutes and review with you. The first exhibit is a listing of our 5 2022 legislative initiatives. Those initiatives are: 1, we're asking you to provide funding to establish internet broadband. I know you've heard this, but this is certainly a top priority for us. Broadband connectivity to rural areas to make sure all our students have access to online instruction and essential resources to be successful in school. As school systems, we have taken steps, major steps, to provide access to the internet, such as hotspots, but each home in our prospective districts needs a reliable source for the internet. So we ask you to take a strong look at funding there. Number 2, we ask that you sustain state education funding as outlined in the blueprint for Maryland's future to provide state funding. We need additional funds to strengthen our early childhood education program and meet the needs of students with learning challenges. Number 3, we encourage Maryland University, ask you to encourage Maryland's universities and colleges to recruit and admit students pursuing teaching degrees. This is not new, but we have a serious critical teacher shortage. Maryland itself, the state of Maryland, does not graduate enough teachers to meet the needs of our school systems. On the shore today, we still have openings from this school year and vacancies that we cannot fill. Number 4, please oppose any legislation that negatively impacts the authority of our local boards of education and superintendents of school. We believe that our boards of education and our superintendents of schools are in the best position to understand the needs of our individual communities, and we ask for your support in supporting local control. And 5, support the FY23 capital project requests for the Eastern Shore listed on the back of this page, or the back of the page that you have. 8 of our school systems are seeking for FY23 state capital project funds from the IAC. We are asking you, each of you, to support these requests. And again, these requests are listed on the exhibit. The second exhibit you have provides a snapshot in time of the students that we serve and the services that we provide, such as transportation, food and nutrition, and health services. And we wanted to provide that information and updated information for you on that. At this time, I'm going to stop after mentioning our 5 and open up for any questions. And I ask my colleagues, it is open for any of them to answer should a question arise that you would like to answer. So Chairman Arntz, again, we are grateful for the opportunity to have a few minutes with the delegation this morning, and we appreciate all the work. Let me say before we get into it, all the work that each of you do. I know I speak on behalf of my colleagues. We know you're up there working for us. I hear from my delegation on a regular basis, and I know others do as well. So we do appreciate everything that you're trying to do to help our schools. And most importantly, please keep in mind, by helping our schools, we are helping our young people. That is priority to each of us. So thank you, Chairman Arntz.
Thank you very much. And hopefully you understand that we appreciate all the work you all are doing. We know what a task it is to do the job that educators have out there. It's very difficult, especially in today's climate. First up, I think we have Delegate Jeff Grist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you all for coming. This is always a very productive meeting every year when you guys meet with us. And I can tell you that our entire delegation, we're going to do everything we possibly can. I know we've worked very specifically with a couple counties so far as implementation of the blueprint. I know it's going to be a big challenge, not just for you guys, but for all of our local governing bodies. And in many cases, there's actually a very close relationship between the two. You guys are asking us to support a lot of legislation that's important to you, and I'm pretty sure we're all going to do that. But I'm going to take this opportunity to ask for your support on legislation that we're bringing forward as well. House Bill 633 and Senate Bill 933. Again, that's House Bill 633, Senate Bill 933. This adds 4 new members to the implementation board, so that way we can attain geographic diversity You guys are very much aware that Montgomery County, Baltimore City, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore County are the only counties that are represented on that implementation board. So what this will do, it'll guarantee we have one representative from the Eastern Shore. And I hope that you guys could send a letter. The hearing is on Tuesday. I hope that you guys can send a letter of support for that.
We certainly support you on that without saying. I see my colleagues as you were speaking, shaking their heads, and we certainly will do everything we can as a group here on the Eastern Shore to come out and support that. Kelly, I know one of my colleagues has her hand. Kelly, would you like to respond?
Yes, Delegate Grice, I just want you to know we also have been proactive and invited some people from the AIB to visit the Eastern Shore. And all of our implementation coordinators met with someone from the AIB so that they could get a perspective from the Eastern Shore, but we definitely support you on that.
Okay, great. Next up, we have Senator Carrozza. You'll have to unmute. Oh,
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and it's just great to see all the school superintendents, and of course, I want to give a shout out to my three, Superintendent Taylor and Superintendent Gaddis and Superintendent Hanlon. I have three quick issues to run through. One, we met during the interim in Worcester and in Mr. Taylor's role with the Eastern Shore Maryland Consortium. And as a result of that meeting, ended up raising some issues with leadership on three particular issues. The letter that you sent, that ESMAC sent to the governor and to the Senate President and to the Speaker Jones regarding the holding harmless, the funding formula holding harmless, the decreases in student enrollment. We also talked about the additional support we needed in the FARMS program and for special education services. And we also talked about getting something specific on more flexibility for the locals to meet the implementation timelines for the blueprint. So from some discussions, I know some of that we made progress on some of those, but I was looking to see if you had received anything formal from at the state level on the flexibility on the timelines, because I had received some initial indications that you would be given that, but I had not heard if that was official. So that's my first question. My second question is, there is a bill in front, Chair Pinsky has a bill regarding virtual schools and how that would impact the Eastern Shore Consortium. And we are working very hard to make sure we have the flexibility on that. And that exchange with Chair Pinsky prompted Chair Pinsky to say that he would have a conversation directly with Dr. John Andes on the Eastern Shore Virtual School to protect that. I wanted to see if that had occurred at this point. And then finally, the third issue is, as you all know, we've been hearing from a lot of parents in the public about just having more transparency on the curriculum, just so they know what is being taught in the schools. I do have a bill, Senate Bill 786, that I have been working with Dr. Annette Wallace and with the Eastern Shore Consortium to see if there is something that we can do that is not burdensome to you, but that we can have more of that information posted on the website. So those are my three issues. I know it's a lot, but two of them are very time sensitive right now.
You're still muted, Louis.
Thank you, Senator Carrozza. It's always good to see you as well. Dr. Andes, are you on? I know I saw you somewhere earlier.
Yes, I am here.
Well, good morning, sir. Would you like to respond to the first couple with the of Senator Carrozza's? Did we receive a response from our letter? And then did you have a conversation or have you heard from Senator Pinsky? Were the first two questions I believe Senator Carrozza asked.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, Chairman Arntz and members of the delegation. In case you don't know who I am, I'm John Andes. I'm the Executive Director of Eastern Shore, Maryland. And this is my 25th time of attending. I've been attending since 1997, the Eastern Shore Delegation meeting with superintendents of schools. This is number 25, and incidentally, this is my last time because I'm stepping down on June 30th. And all of you have changed, and I have gotten a lot older in those last 25 years. Response to Senator Crow's questions. Yes, Senator Pinsky, Chairman Pinsky and I had a conversation on Saturday regarding Senate Bill 362 and virtual program. We had a very frank conversation about the programs, about the initiative and about the bill and the bill moving forward and his concerns and our concerns with the bill. So we did have that conversation on Saturday. And thank you, Senator Croza, for making that conversation occur. We're going to continue to monitor the bill and certainly lobby and advocate for our position to maintain the Eastern Shore Maryland Education and Consortium blended virtual school program, which incidentally is the only inter-school system virtual program in Maryland for grades 7 through 12. So we thank you, Senator Croza, for that assistance. In terms of the timeline of the AIB, we're all waiting for the timeline to be announced. And it seems to be adjusted on a regular basis with the requirements and the reports and so forth and so on. So we're monitoring that situation. School systems are actively engaged in working on putting their tentative draft plans together, and they're working on those items right now. We need more time in order to put those plans together because, as you recall, those plans were supposed to be together in March. Now they've been postponed to the summer, and we need more time beyond that to put these plans together to make sure we're effectively utilizing the additional state and county funds to meet the needs of our students. So I think I did my job in answering those two questions. At this point in time, I'll mute myself and turn it back to Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Dr. Andes. Dr. Griffith, would you like to make some comments on that timeline as well?
We just had a meeting this morning, Mr. Taylor, and we did find out that the AIB filed a bill to adjust the timeline, but one of the concerns is they did not include an adjustment on the timeline for CCR, Career and College Readiness. And that is a real problem. So we're going to bring that up with the Maryland Superintendents Association and MSDE.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. In response, Senator Cruz, to your third question, I know we've had some comment, and I know you've been working with one of my assistant superintendents, Dr. Net Wallace, who is not available this morning, of which I've not had an updated conversation with her about that. We are taking a look at curriculum matters. We have certain things on our website now, but the depth in which we put what out there, and we've not come to any kind of consensus yet or that. I know it's a work in progress. I'm aware of your bill, as you have shared with me. I don't know. I will tell you, we are actively communicating I'm actively communicating and will be communicating with our instructional leaders here in Worcester County, but I'm not sure what my colleagues or where they are in reference to supporting that bill or what they are planning to do. And I'll ask if Dr. Hanlon or Dr. Gaddis would like to comment, since they're in your district or your area, would like to make any comments on that this time. Dr. Gaddis, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor. No, we're in the same boat. We had changed our curriculum policy a couple months ago. In fact, the other night we had a new science curriculum. We had a parent night that was held at the county, invited parents to come, albeit 2 parents came, but we still offered the evening. We're also offering events at schools. We have the same thing. We're working on our webpage to provide the curriculum. A lot of references are to the state standards that MSDE has established, but we're going to have that information. The one thing that we are concerned about is getting into the weeds. And what I mean by that is some folks want to see every single lesson posted on the webpage. And for us, that's an incredible task. But we have no problem sharing, and we have given in paper the curriculums to people that have requested them. So we're moving along, including parents, community members, and having that dialogue, and we'll be happy to post what we need to post with the appropriate links. It's just a matter of working to figure all that out and specifically what needs to be up there. So we're on board and working towards that anyway.
Thanks, Dr. Gaddis. Dr. Hanlon?
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add to what the two of you have already said. It's a work in progress, working with our community and their concerns and being able to be as transparent as we possibly can. As you know, we are the largest school system on the Eastern Shore. So as Dr. Gaddis indicated, to put every teacher's lesson plan available online would be, I think that would be beyond what we would be capable of doing without adding a lot of staff. So anyway, it's a work in progress.
Thank you, Dr. Hanlon.
All right, I think, are you done, Lou?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Next up, we have Delegate Mounts. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. Sorry, I wear these progressive glasses, so I can't see unless I rock my head back. Everything's blurry. I wrote a letter we've got 4 jurisdictions. I wrote a letter talking about COVID and COVID mandates and some of the things we're dealing with. And I just wanted to make sure all the superintendents saw that. Those are issues that are near and dear to me. I feel pretty strongly about them. And I just wanted to get that on the record to you and be happy to talk more offline about that. And, you know, I know everybody, I've been in touch with many people about the masking mandates and what's going on. And we expect the state board to affirm, or the AELR to affirm what state board decided. But and I'd encourage you as quickly as you can to move on that. I know families and children all around are just looking forward to the first moment that is moving in another direction, as I'm sure that you are, because I know you've been inundated with it. And but we've had some bills, and we haven't discussed this morning. And while you're on the call, the juvenile justice issues and the crime issues. We had a bill in the House yesterday that was very controversial, and I didn't know if there's anything that was on your radar screen for that. And we just met with the counties, and you know, some of these funding mandates are just unbearable in certain situations. And I didn't know if there was a situation where a school district simply could not do or could not meet, or you see this specific a wall that's just not climbable based off of what's being required of you. And then lastly, just real quickly, I don't want to derail the meeting, but you know, we're voting on marijuana today, the legalization of marijuana. And I just don't know, we haven't had a lot of dialogue about that, but I think it would be very pertinent to at least put your 2 cents in about that. I don't know how you keep it out of schools. I just don't know how you keep it out of schools. But so those quick 3 questions. It's good to see everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I will defer to my colleagues about the crime and things. I'm pretty fortunate over here in Worcester to have a resource officer in every school, as do most of my colleagues. And our issues haven't escalated to a part where we can't handle it. So before I move on to the next topic, is anybody, any of the superintendents would like to comment to Delegate Mounts about that?
No, I just think the SROs are essential, Johnny. They're really important, and you know that they really do form relationships with students, and that's how we find out a lot of our information, so we can be more proactive on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get the bill number of the bill we debated yesterday for everybody to take a look at also. Thank you.
Johnny, one of the things that's tough for me as a longtime Worcester County citizen is not to give my personal opinions, and it may not be reflective of my colleagues, but I adamantly support voting against the legalization of marijuana. We do have, I went to schools in Worcester County back in the 70s, and marijuana appeared in schools back then. When I say it appeared in schools. I don't think there's a school in the state of Maryland, I know on the Eastern Shore, who set up selling marijuana. So when people would tell me X school has a drug problem, well, we're not in the business of selling drugs. Those are just we're just a conduit where society brings in their problems, and unfortunately or fortunately, everybody's in one place. So we still battle those. It's gotten much more sophisticated now with these little pins they put in and different things. And we even have situations, I know in Worcester County Public Schools, where parents bring in that their kids have card carrying for medical use of marijuana. And that makes it very challenging as we face our drug policies and things of that nature. Again, I may be just speaking for me on this, but the legalization of it is not going to help us at all.
Right. I just don't know how, I don't want you, once you produce this and manufacture it, I don't know how, when it's a regular product. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Jeff. I apologize.
No, that's fine. And I just wanted to kind of jump on what the two of you were saying. We had a meeting yesterday morning with our Government Relations Committee, Chamber of Commerce up in Cecil County, and this issue, and I was asked to speak on this issue, and I'm in the same boat as Lou. Lou and I are the same age. We came up in the 70s. This isn't, the 1970s ditchweed marijuana kind of thing. This is pharmaceutical grade THC that has serious psychological effects on adolescents who are going through puberty. And I mean, we all know that once this becomes available recreationally, how long is it before we see 11 and 12-year-olds bringing it to school? So, I mean, I say, and again, I'm speaking for Jeff Lawson as a dad, as a grandfather, that I don't want to see this come into common use. The second thing is, Delegate Motz, if I may, just to take and lift up the CCR issue a little bit so that the delegation's aware how this affects us in the weeds. Right now, the College and Career Readiness Bill, we need the deadline extended because it requires us to have our 10th graders college and career ready by the end of their 10th grade year. And so for this year's 10th graders, the students who haven't passed the MCAT have to be successful in the SAT. They have to maybe take dual enrollment. And if they're not successful in those, then we have to alter their 11th and 12th grade schedules. And that's where the real problem is. We have to create new courses really across the shore for thousands and thousands of students. And it's the end of February. And we simply aren't positioned to do that in terms of creating these new pathways for thousands of students. And so I would be glad to talk offline with any of you in more detail, but I can speak for Cecil County that we're looking at having upwards of 800 to 900 students who aren't ready in terms of being college and career by the end of their sophomore year, have different schedules for them starting in September. And so I think that's the urgency we see as it relates to extending the deadline of Blueprint, specifically college and career ready. And to my colleagues, if I'm not specific enough, please feel free to kind of raise up my remarks.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate your answers. I don't want to take too much time. I would commend to you HB 84. It's introduced by Delegate Ruth. It's titled Education, Crimes on School Grounds and Application. I think that's pertinent to your jurisdiction. I want to make sure that you're aware of it, but it's great to see everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Next up, we have Delegate Sample Use.
Thank you. Good morning. So a couple of things. I just want to say to the superintendents, thank you so much for your flexibility over these past few years with the COVID and just overall just trying to handle parents, school, et cetera. And to your point, broadband is a high priority. So we're still fighting the good fight on that and working with, as you know, many entities within the Eastern Shore businesses that can provide that level of support that is needed. So that is still underway. Capital projects, full support of those. We want to make sure our schools are doing their due diligence by having the technology and being able to have safe and sound buildings. I want to bring to your attention, and there is a bill hearing today on the financial literacy bills. or excuse me, one today. There's one that has happened before, but there's House Bill 985. Delegate Walker has introduced this bill in the past, but I think there's a little bit more to it. So I just, for your knowledge purposes, if you could, if you're not going to, testify or weigh in on it, if you could just circle back around and just see how that impacts your work that you do in the school. I believe financial literacy is very, very important. Too many of our young people are walking out of school and not being prepared on how to have a checking account, savings account, etc. That's a personal thing, I believe. The last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to understand, are our principals and our superintendents getting the information that they need regarding the number of students that are vaccinated in the schools? Does that information come directly to you from the health department, or are you getting it all, or is it not legal to do? I don't know. I just wanted to try to get clarity. And then I guess I got to say this, because you do bring up marijuana. We're not voting to legalize marijuana. So let's be clear about that. And I know Delegate Mouse brought that out. We have put it to a referendum. And so the voters of Maryland will make that decision as to whether or not it is legalized. So I just wanted to make that point. The second part of that piece of legislation is to address, if it were to pass, what that implementation and the policy is on that particular subject matter. So we're not voting to legalize, because I can't support legalizing, but I will support that the voters go to the polls, just as have they done with gaming and others, to have their voice heard. That's all I needed to know, but I do need to know about the vaccination, because we have a vote today at 2:30.
Thank you. The one question, Delegate Sample Hughes, that we do not get the numbers for vaccinations. I know in Worcester, I don't receive them. I don't know if any of my colleagues and from their health departments or whatever, but I am not receiving those vaccination numbers.
We do not get them specifically by school, but our school nurses are employees of our health department. So we would physically have to go into the database and pull out each student if we wanted to see if they were vaccinated. They have it available, but it's not easy to manipulate, and they do not provide us lists.
Okay, well, that's helpful. I thought that you were at least being knowledgeable of the percentage of what's in your schools, number of people vaccinated, your kids. So, okay, we have a vote at 2:30. I just needed to know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Delegate Wayne Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the superintendents. It's great to see everyone. I just wanted to piggyback a little bit off of what Delegate Moutz has said. House Bill 84 was in my committee when he was struggling for the bill number. I was going to chime in, as he said, House Bill 84. And what they're really trying to do is lessen the ability for a student to be charged with a crime on school grounds. So what the bill does is, if a student is very disruptive, cussing out a teacher or whatever, that would have to be handled through school discipline, not through a school resource officer and criminal penalties or whatever through the law. So if there was something, for example, assault or something, that could still be handled as a crime. So it's lessening. It takes a lot of the teeth out of the school's ability to bring down probably a fit and harsh penalty for somebody that's so disruptive. I know if I sat in the middle of the road and refused to move, and the police would come and engage with me, but with some of these 17, 18-year-old students, they're feeling that the less opportunity they have to create a crime while in school, the better off the future that child is. It was very much a party line bill. So just to try to fill you in there, the marijuana thing, the part that concerns me are things like edibles and stuff like that from a school standpoint. It's not just looking for the little bag of leafy green substance. Edibles and things like that could come with it. On the floor, we tried to, as Speaker Pro Tem had mentioned, it's going to go to referendum. We tried to get an amendment passed, whereas if a particular county voted against it in the referendum, then that county could opt out. Unfortunately, things like that have not been successful. So great to see everybody. Just one question, Mr. Taylor, when you were talking about positions, were you talking on for Worcester County, or do we have problems filling positions, across all the counties on the shore?
Across all the counties on the shore. It's a collective problem for everyone on the shore.
I applaud your efforts with the job fair. I saw you had advertised coming up in March. So applaud your efforts for doing things like that kind of out of the box. So thanks for all the good work everyone's doing.
And Delegate Hartman, I can tell you that all my colleagues in their school systems are doing a lot of unique things to try to recruit. Early signings, the list goes on, and all 9 Eastern Shore superintendents are really out of the box trying to get people to come to their systems. But it's just a numbers problem as we see it across the Eastern Shore. So thank you for any help you can give us and all the delegation can give us. We're working hard, and I speak on behalf of all 9 of us. We're working hard to be as creative with that as we possibly can.
Are the vacancies, if we looked at them as a whole, are the vacancies mostly in a particular area? Is it high school? Is it science and math? Is it?
It's across the board, Wayne. It's everywhere. It's in all areas. It depends on the county where the needs. There are critical shortage areas. For example, I'll just pick one area to find a certified physics teacher. All of us have them in all our schools, and there might be 3 candidates. And that we could, all 9 of us would have to talk to for 7 openings, things of that nature. And so there's those critical areas, but collectively there's issues everywhere. Math teachers are hard to find. The list goes on. It just depends on the county and the needs of each individual county.
Thanks for elaborating on that.
Sure. Thank you.
Just a quick heads up for the members and everybody. I do have a question, but it seems that the Maryland Transportation Authority was going to be on this call. They postponed us to possibly next week. So I apologize. So if there's any other questions and somebody wants to ask it, they can. I guess I wanted to just touch base on the marijuana thing. I think if we do go through with this referendum, and I'm hoping we don't, I think it's imperative that our schools really step up to help us with this. I don't think it's a good thing personally. Again, that's my belief, and I share that with anybody that's ever asked, but it is important. I mean, drugs are drugs. I mean, just a few short years ago, we outlawed something called alcohol, or most of you don't know what that is, but it was powdered alcohol. And I questioned then, how is it that we can, and we've been continually pushing to legalize marijuana. And I think this is just the next step towards legalizing, because I think the referendum, in my opinion, a lot of people just feel it's okay. I don't, but we outlawed that product, and it was in my opinion, all it was like Kool-Aid that you pour into water and you had alcohol. But we decided as a body that was somehow unsafe, yet we're having and constantly entertaining discussions about these drugs. And I think, especially for our youths and stuff, I think it's important. So that's my podium for my preach. Senator Eckert, you had your hand up for a minute, or did you lower or did I? You're muted. Senator.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got it in the chat. I was just asking for the numbers about the off-ramping, because we are going to be voting to support, well, I'm going to be voting to support the education decision to make masks optional. But I was just curious, when we were talking about the numbers of vaccinations, were we getting information about the off-ramp? So that'll probably come up today, and we'll be dealing with that. So thank you very much. Sorry, didn't want to take up too much time.
That's fine. I appreciate that. Dr. Andes, on behalf of the entire delegation, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Yes.
25 years is a long time, and that dedication shows, and we do appreciate it. The few years I've been here, it's been great seeing you. It's great having all of you. And,
Mr. Chairman.
Just from my side of this world, I'll get you 1 second, Jason. Sorry, Senator. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the superintendents and the hard work you all have. You guys really have a task, and I'll speak towards my superintendent, Ms. Salins, and say that she's been willing to talk to me a few times, and I think that's really nice, and the conversations have been great. Not saying we always agree on things, but I think we do get along pretty well. Senator Gallion, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Andes, you were principal at Havre de Grace High School when I was there.
in the 90s. So I just want to congratulate you and just say, from all those years ago, you've done a terrific job for many, many years. And I'm actually a 95 grad from Havre de Grace. You were there a little earlier in the 90s there, but you were the principal when I first got there. So congratulations.
Thank you, Senator. It's good to see you again.
Seeing you too.
Again, thank you all for coming. I think we'll jump into the next part of our program, and that would be our federal delegation. Any comments?
Good morning. This is Kimberly Cradaville with Senator Ben Cardin's office. First, I'd like to introduce Jessica Cook. It's ironic she's on this call. She comes to us as an 18-year teacher. So she has some insight into this last discussion, but Jessica adds Cecil County to her portfolio. So I just wanted to make sure that the Cecil County folks know Jessica. And if you haven't been in touch, I think maybe Jessica could put her email in the chat for you all. Just very quickly, obviously Ukraine is on the minds of all of us, and the Senate Foreign Relations has been knee deep in that. So as mentioned earlier, we pray for those folks in Ukraine. And also, I just wanted to mention that Senator Cardin's, Melissa, and Keith Graffius from Congressman Harris's office yesterday participated in a press conference regarding H-2B visas down on Hooper's Island, and stressing the importance of that in the Maryland economy, and had statements. I know the congressman was there, so obviously that's on all of our minds. But in the interest of time, please keep in touch. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Yep. This is Melissa Kelly, Senator Van Hollen's office. I was going to reiterate the fact that we did participate in that press conference yesterday. All three of your federal delegation members are on the same page. We're all working for the same permanent solution, but the immediate fix is to get these additional visas released. And hopefully, the congressman was talking about potentially increasing or putting in next year's appropriation bill, increasing the numbers and getting those released quickly, because the processing time to get those workers here, once those are released, take a bit. So just know that all three of us are working very hard to get this fixed. So that's my only update. Thank you.
Chairman Ahrens, thank you for a great meeting. Lots of information. I really don't have anything to add to what Melissa and Kimberly have had to say. However, I just wanted to compliment all the superintendents on the job they're due for our children and on the Eastern Shore. And this was a great meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And we did send out a letter to all the delegates and the senators about the visas. So we're all working on, I'll take a look at it. Delegate Hornberger, your hand's up.
Yeah, just real quick. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really applaud the efforts of the federal delegation to stand up for what's happening over there in Ukraine. And I had a quick question, switching gears. We have a constituent business owner who pursued the Hurricane Ida funds with the state and was unsuccessful. They actually called me a few minutes ago. Are the SBA disaster relief for Tropical Depression Ida, is that still available? We don't have to answer it right now, but if one of you guys could send me the right person to contact about that, because this person was applied for many months with the state and did not have any luck.
Delegate, if you could forward that to, or have them forward it to us.
Okay.
We can certainly at least look into it. I'll put my email right here in the chat.
Fantastic. And I again applaud your efforts and thanks so much.
All right, just one more thing if we can next week, hopefully we'll have MDOT, but I want to make everybody on a call. MDOT did come out, their board met, and they did come out with a direction with some of the issues we're seeing on this. I don't know, in my opinion, if it's enough, but at least we're addressing it and they're moving forward on it. And we'll get an update next week. With that said, any other comments or questions as to good of the order? I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you all for attending and have a great week.